Well, welcome. You guys know this channel. I try to keep it uplifting. I do what I can. I do what I can, man. I'm trying to make it positive. I'm trying to give you the good vibes. But there's always, at some point, every artist, every human is going to go through this, the bottom, the breaking point. And I want to talk about it. I want to talk about how to recover from it without destroying your motivation entirely, without throwing in the towel. How do you just kind of like get back up on the horse when you've reached a point where you're just like, I can't do it anymore? If you choose the creative field, you're gonna be probably at some point overwhelmed. Maybe you take on too many projects. Maybe you bite off more than you can chew. Maybe you've promised more than what you know you could deliver. Maybe you're just overwhelmed with the amount of work. Maybe you're trying to get a job and you're posting your work everywhere and you're feeling this incredible pressure to produce tons and tons of content, and sometimes they're going in opposite directions. It might feel overwhelming. You might at some point just like not get the results that you want, and then you just break. It might be tough on your friends or your family, whoever you're spending the most amount of your time with, people who are in your life. You know, they don't want to hear about your work constantly and the struggles and the challenges of your work constantly. Especially in this day and age, everybody's very focused on their own needs, right? And so it can feel like real life, the thing that matters, is falling apart for the sake of your artwork or for your art career. This is not something that you're going to hear a lot of talk about on YouTube, okay? It's not the sexy, glamorous like part of being a game developer or an artist or working in a creative field. Everybody wants to imagine it's like a party all the time. They want to imagine that you just get to go and hang out and have a good time, and maybe you draw when you feel like it, but it's highly competitive. And not just that, but you are under constant scrutiny for your work. That pressure mounts and mounts, and there are solutions, but it's hard to see them sometimes. And that's why I thought, I know these things, I know how to get out of this, and I know how to handle these sorts of situations, but like, you don't hear about it much, so it falls off the radar and then you get sucked into the trap again. So I want to talk about it just in case if there's anybody else out there that's feeling overwhelmed and reaching that breaking point. Now, first and foremost, just remember that it's just a game, or it's just a comic, or it's just art. It's just a creative process. It's not supposed to be life-wrecking, okay? Remember that whatever you're making, you're gonna hate it in 5 years anyway, and you're gonna wanna do something better then anyway. It's just another thing. Like, prioritize your personal life is what I'm saying. Prioritize your kids, prioritize your partner, be there for them, be present, not just nodding along, but be present for them. And in fact, from a psychological standpoint, if you'd study the psychology on this, being mindful of other people's needs is actually the way out of your own neurotic cycles. And so, yeah, that does mean putting some things down at a reasonable hour. This project, whatever it is you're working on, could be the thing that ends what really matters in your world, whatever you're going through. So remember to prioritize properly, like what is really valuable in your long-term well-being and the well-being and the health of your relationships. It's unreasonable to expect so much more of yourself than the normal person has to do. And certainly I've always believed that if you want extraordinary rewards, you're going to have to make extraordinary sacrifices. I do believe that, especially if you're like, think about it, if you're trying to win a bodybuilding championship, you don't get there just because you're naturally gifted. No, like you have to work hard, damn hard, to be number one, to be the best. But even bodybuilders know the importance of letting your muscles rest. And what happens during that time, that rest time, is that you're rebuilding your muscle tissues during your rest. So the rest is just as important as the flex, as the workout itself. And that is true with your creative endeavors as well. So remember that if you need to recharge your batteries, rest in the evenings, play some games, watch some movies, let your brain wander a little bit and enjoy life. Remember to enjoy life. If you go for a year of working 12-hour workdays and you don't even give yourself weekends off anymore, then you're setting yourself up for burnout. You're setting yourself up for a breakdown. Something's going to break. And this is why, even in the Bible, it talks about taking a single day a week to rest. There's a reason that's in there. It's ancient wisdom, man. And just as an aside, my personal opinion is make sure that this rest that you're choosing is not stressing you out even more. Recently, I've been choosing to read manga. I read One Piece. It's like my absolute favorite thing to do in the evenings to wind down. I read about maybe for 20 or 30 minutes almost every night. If you're working in video games, maybe pick up that new game. Give yourself permission to find a restful way and be responsible about it, but find a restful activity. Maybe it's sports. I also work out every single day. I walk 3 to 5 miles, just sit in the sauna for 15 minutes, doing nothing. No podcasts, no music, nothing. Although music can be a de-stressor as well. I've been trying to learn to play piano 10 to 15 minutes a day. And so like what I do is I actually set this stuff kind of up in my way. So a little bit. So I have my keyboard like sitting in the living room. So when I walk by, if I go to the refrigerator to get another tea or a more water refill, I'll walk right by that thing and I might just sit down and like jam out a little thing that I've been practicing. Or I'll put up like a gameplay video of a game that I used to really enjoy playing, but I don't have time to play right now. I just put that on while I'm working. Another key component to this is your inner dialogue about it. I found myself saying, I don't have time. And when you're saying that in your mind, you're also going to be saying that to people when they want to get together. So make sure, and this is the biggest thing that's really helped me with this stress, is to remember to get together with pals, get together with friends. I had lunch with an old friend of mine from my Blizzard days the other weekend, and it was just such a relaxing, restful thing. We talked a little bit about work, but for the most part, it's just about what's going on in other people's lives. When you're working on your own problems, you're in your head so much all day. If you're working on a big project like this, everything is about that project. Everything is about your work. Everything is about yourself. And that can actually lead to a kind of a psychosis. You could easily lose touch with reality. You could easily lose touch with what's really going on around you or get fixated on things that aren't really there. So here's my prescription. One, also get off of social media for a brief moment. Just give yourself like time off and say, don't do it right now. I have a designated time on, Tuesday mornings that I go through Twitter or whatever, it's something like that for me anyway. The second thing I'd recommend is remember to be playful and joyful in your life. And when you're sick of that and you're feeling like a useless lump again, buckle down and get back on it. Set an attainable, aggressive goal for yourself to finish an asset, finish that page that you're working on, finish that painting you were working on, and finish it by a certain time. And push yourself, but give yourself that freedom to forgive yourself if you have to cut a few corners to make sure that it just gets done in time, and then you can come back and reevaluate and revisit it later. The important thing here is that you remember to get back on it. You don't stop. You're not just going to stop because you're frustrated right now. That's a temporary feeling. You're just overwhelmed right now. It's not the entirety of the whole thing. You can do more. You'll miss doing it, and you'll certainly regret it if you quit entirely. Too much of laziness is going to keep the dragons pounding down at your door. And that'll be a nice reminder to get your ass back in gear and get productive again. Because those dragons don't go away. They just get sort of shoved under the rug for a little while until they grow into massive creatures that'll eventually consume your house. And then remember that somewhere in the middle is the answer to all of those things. Somewhere in the middle is going to be the happy ground where you're creative but also responsible. And that's going to be the sweet spot. That's where you're going to find the true sense of purpose and joy and reward, is when you realize that life is going to be challenging and suffering, and it's going to be hard, and it's going to be, a lot of work, and it's going to tax you. It's going to challenge you. And that's a damn good thing, because if you're not challenged, if you're not tested, then you're going to feel like, what was the point of it? I'm going to go out and search out problems or create more. Or eventually all those problems that you've been hiding from your whole life are going to eventually consume you. And you don't want that, right? So it's important to dance between the two. It's important to be present and playful and let go. But it's also important to remember, okay, that was a good time this weekend. Now I'm going to get back to work again. It's Monday. So forcing yourself to take that weekend off, or at least one day, is essential. These things are an ongoing challenge throughout your whole life. You're going to go through this, and it's okay. It's okay to let some things go and to accept that you're human. It's okay to delegate, perhaps, to other people a couple of tasks. In some cases, it builds bonds It builds trust. It builds teamwork to let others tackle things that you maybe feel overwhelmed with. I recently on my team, there's a lot of art. I mean, making art for an entire game is a big deal, let alone directing it and writing it and just trying to do too many jobs. And I asked one of the other people on the team who's not like traditionally he does everything, but art, he wouldn't say that art is like his number one thing that he does. And I gave him a chance. I was like, hey man, like, why don't you just sketch in some ideas for some parts for this dungeon? And he was thrilled to do it. I didn't realize it meant so much. Like, he was so happy to get a chance to flex his artistic wings. And for me, it was like, well, geez, now I've got these like starting points for props that saves me a ton of work too. So like, that's great teamwork, man. And sometimes you got to realize it's not all entirely on your shoulders. You have a team, you have other people that you can work with that can help you through it. And that's the value of having a team to begin with. You're not alone. And so like, it's important to also, maybe you might want to make that decision for yourself too. If you've been solo developing something for a long time, you might want to consider partnering with somebody or hiring somebody to help you with some of those tasks, because they can make your life a little bit easier, or at least help you to refine what it is that you do a little bit more. Recently, I've been doing a lot of dieting. I don't want to say dieting because I'm just changing my eating habits entirely. And I really like spread myself thin. I've lost 30 pounds almost in about 2 months. And some people would say, oh, that's unhealthy. You got to change that. You better. And I'm sure some people have already written that in the comments. You better change that. But you know what? Like, I'm not really starving myself or straining myself too much. But I have had a couple of moments where I'm like, oh man, I think I'm going to break. I think I can't keep this up. I need sustenance. I need to go out and get myself some fried chicken or something like that. And here's the thing. I'm reminded that, I can allow myself to have one, not a cheat meal, but like, I'm going to have like a hamburger. I just have to get it without the bun, or I can have myself a little bit of something great that's going to be an enjoyable, palatable meal, very palatable meal. But then I'm not going to quit on the thing that I know is working. Just like, it's this one meal. It's not. So yeah. So I had some like peanut butter. Okay. Get back on the horse, man. Like, just let that be that one meal or that one day when you needed the juice, when you needed the energy, but don't throw in the towel. And that's important. Remember that if you've got something that works and you're capable of doing it, even though it's hard, maybe you just need to recharge and contextualize it in a way that you remind yourself, I'm a bull, man. I'm going to charge right through this thing, but I just need to rest right now. And that's okay. Even the strongest bull still must rest now and then. I don't know if that metaphor is a good metaphor. It sounded good in my head. Anyway, and then I'd say like the final thing is even while you're working, remember to play around, have some fun, let it go. It's okay. It's all right. It's just a game. It's just a comic. It's just a piece of art. It's just whatever, your project is. It's just a book. It's just that piece of thing, but it's not you. It's not the entirety of your being. The entirety of your being is so much more than the work you're putting in right now, even though it does matter, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, I hope that helps you. If you're curious of how I do the art that I do or how I make art for video games, check out some of my workshops and tutorials. I make those because people ask me, how do you do that stuff that you do? You're on your YouTube channel. Well, there it is. All my brushes are over there too. If you're new to the channel, man, I got a treat for you, man. I got a lot of videos here with similar conversations, talks about things that'll help you get through those tough times of being an artist and help you along with your art career. And what you're watching me do is work on a video game. I'm recording all the artwork for it, and I've been documenting that. If you like Metroidvanias and you like RPGs from the 90s, you're going to dig Twilight Monk. You can wishlist that over on Steam right now. It's coming out on Switch in early 2025. So that's it for me in this video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Ciao.